You talk about learning about comics. What was your first job in comics?
I got an internship at Marvel while I was still in college.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
So I had gotten when I moved to New York. So I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and there were comic book shops around, and there was actually a really, really famous one that used to advertise in the books of this amazing collection. You could do mail order catalogs and stuff. It's called Dave's Comics, and if you look in old Marvel books, there are Dave's Comics advertisements all over it, and that's where my uncle went. I didn't really like that shop though because I played Magic the Gathering, and they stocked Magic the Gathering cards because they knew that kids would come in and buy them, but they were always furious whenever you did, right? Just because they didn't think that was their real business.
They're like, we're doing this, but we don't want to do it.
Yeah, man. And I remember it just really rubbed me the wrong way because one year, me and my cousins saved up all year because we knew that Ice Age was coming out, the new Magic set, and we saved up to buy a box, which was a huge expense for us as kids. And we were going to buy a box of packs, right? And then we were going to split them all up, and we were so excited. And we went in there, and we had crumpled dollar bills and change and stuff, and we barely had enough with the tax, and they were so mad at us. So I didn't they're out of business now. So I could say this, but I held a grudge against Dave's. And yeah, the comic book shops in Richmond, there's some really good ones now, and but at the time, they were hard to get to. I didn't live close to one, and I didn't. And then once I got a car, I don't know, girls. Yeah. I kind of missed the critical period to really get super into comics because they weren't available. And this is a thing that people talk about all the time. That this is why and this is before there was manga and graphic novels in every Borders, and which doesn't exist anymore, or Barnes and Noble or whatever. This is before that era. So I kind of missed the critical period for it. But then when I got to college, and I went to college in New York City, I went to NYU, and there are so many comic stores, and they're all dope. And it's you don't drive, you just walk around, and so you just walk by when you're like, oh, Forbidden Planet, let me go in here and check out, and and my brain exploded, right? Just to have all of that stuff in one place and curated, and people who are nice and willing to help you. And yeah, it really blew my mind. And so I kind of fell down the rabbit hole really quickly when I was in college, and just reading anything I could get my hands on and anything that was recommended to me. And I got really, it's still one of my favorites, I got really into Usagi Yojimbo. That's one of my all-time favorites. But yeah, so I got super into comics, and I had gone to college with the idea of going into academia. Right, I wanted to be in the philosophy department. I wanted to be a philosopher. I wanted to write and get published and teach, and I loved continental philosophy, and that's really what I wanted to do. And then I got there and I started meeting professors, and they were all miserable. And I was like, oh my God, what a terrible life. What have I done? Getting on the track to 10, and just hearing these guys complain about, not even the professors, just the adjuncts and people just trying to get on the track to tenure, and all the politics of it. And I was like, oh my God, this sounds like a nightmare. I don't want to do this. And I kind of freaked out because I had, this is the great higher education system in this country, but I'd only been one semester into the philosophy program, and it was already too late for me to switch to I was like, you know what, I'm a math guy too. I like math a lot, and I was like, you know what, maybe I'll switch to programming or engineering or I looked at half a dozen different things. It was too late. I was going to have to do a fifth year. Yeah, because you had to get on the track in your first semester, right? Is that reasonable? So expecting 18-year-old kids to know?
No changes.
It's stupid.
You have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life with no 18, change.
Yeah.
Don't you think about changing it?
It's ridiculous. So I was freaking out, and then I found comic books, and I was like, I'd always loved writing. I had always, I enjoyed. I would write stories for fun and stuff like that, but always prose. And finding comics was so, and discovering that it sounds like a stupid thing, right? Because now with the internet, everybody all this stuff is so transparent. But even as early as or even as late as the early 2000s, which is when I was in college, just learning that there were people whose jobs were to write comic scripts was kind of a real eye opener.
Same thing with me. I was the same exact way.
And the reason that was amazing to me was because I grew up loving comic strips. I grew up loving cartoons. I adored cartoons. I always was a pretty visual thinker, but I'm not a good artist. I'm not. I don't think it's this natural talent. I know. I get it. You have to develop it. And I didn't. I got frustrated as a kid. My friends and my cousins were better artists than me. And
I'm done.
I don't want to do this anymore. And so finding out that there was a way to create something visual by yourself without all like the structure of film and television and having to have like 36 people involved for like the tiniest thing, right? That there's a way to do that, to create something visual without me actually being an artist was, I don't know, it was like a lightning bolt to my brain. And so I immediately set out to try and figure out, okay, well, how do I do this? I don't know anything. I don't know anybody. I don't know how things are written. I don't know how the industry works. I know nothing. And I figured, well, maybe I can get an internship. Maybe I can get a job, the same way, like, I know all my friends at like NYU Business School were like getting like Goldman Sachs internships and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'll go to Marvel. And so I found email address. I went on the websites, right? Mm-hmm. And I looked at Marvel and DC. And I was always more of a Marvel kid, but I didn't care. Just let me into one of these. And DC had nothing about their internship program on the website. So done, right? End of search, right? Marvel had a thing about it, but it was like, please, like a little page. It was like, please call the main line, like call Marvel headquarters, just like the receptionist. And I did, and I would get like shunted over into like the phone tree, right? Yeah. Like, and it was like. I just watched Fight Club, so this is on my mind. I did another podcast where we talked about Fight Club, but you know how like when like Jared Leto and like all the other like Jared Leto and Meatloaf, all of our favorites, they show up on the porch and they just have to stand there for 3 days in order to get let paraded in. Yeah, exactly. That's what it felt like, because I couldn't get through to anybody, and I just started like following the menu options, trying to. And I was like, you know what, human resources, like that's who I'll ask. I'll answer human resources, and I eventually got through to Mary Sproul's, who was, and maybe still, I don't know, at the time, she was like the executive VP of human resources. And she was the only, this is well pre-Disney, so she was the only human resources employee at Marvel. And she was like the executive VP, and she was really high up. And so I found out a way in the phone system to just get directed, like put directly through to Mary Sprouse. And I called that poor woman every day for like 2 or 3 weeks. Just trying to get, just like asking her every day, just like, hey, this is Aubrey Sitterson again. Just call about that internship. And eventually she like sent my information to Tom Brevoort's assistant in editorial, and they brought me in for an interview.
I love it.
Yeah, just sheer force of will.
Persistence.
Yeah. So I got that internship. I worked with, in Tom Brevoort's office. At the time, it was Andy Schmidt and Nicole. At the time, she was Wiley. Now she's Nicole Boos. And I think that's it. And then Molly Laser joined later, too. And yeah, I worked as a intern, and then they liked me. And I was really eager, and I was really hungry. And so my last semester, maybe semester and a half, they brought me on as an editorial assistant. They brought me on as an employee. So I was working part-time at Marvel while I was still in college, while I was finishing up my degree. And then once I graduated, the timing worked out really well, because someone in Brevoort's office left, and I slid in as an assistant editor.
That's the way it works.
Yeah, man.
Someone moves out and you go, okay.